Okay, welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I'm super excited to be joined by the lovely Victoria Hatton today on the podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
So excited. You're so smiley as well. I love, me and Heather were talking about this. So Victoria is a member of my Dotty community and I believe found me on the Janet Murray podcast, right?
Yes.
So Victoria is now a member of the Dotties, my membership community, and has recently joined a course with me and Heather Gray called Taking the BS Out of Business. And every single call, the thing that I love about you is that you show up and it doesn't matter what we say, you're always smiling. You're like, any feedback, not a problem, just going to smile, and everything is like so positive. I don't know how to explain it for the people that are listening to the podcast. I feel like we should put up a picture of Victoria's face, but you're always just so bright and bubbly and it's absolutely incredible.
I think it probably comes from my background in autism, because children with autism need to see that you're happy with them. So I think I've just got used to smiling a lot, but I'm probably a pretty smiley person anyway, to be fair.
Well, I love it. I think it's great. It is one of those things where I'm like, it just really cheers me up. It really makes my day. And I think that's a really good segue, because obviously, you know, you're relatively new to my community in terms of like time spent. You've been probably in my community about 3 months, maybe?
Even less, only about 6 weeks.
There we go, look at that. And that just goes to show that you can sell quickly, right? You can build up know, like, trust quickly. But it's one of those things that you came into my community, you're in a really, really interesting and hugely valuable niche, because you are helping parents who have kids with autism to really help them overcome like the behavioural challenges and the challenges of everyday life living with a child with special needs, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's huge. And you also have your own child who also has autism.
I do, yeah. I'm an autism specialist teacher, and my daughter was diagnosed 8 years ago as well.
Fantastic. I mean, not fantastic in that kind of sense, but it's one of those things that you have more energy than most people I know. And they are not doing half the stuff that you are dealing with on an everyday basis. Did you find that you kind of moved towards the autism specialist once your daughter was diagnosed, or was it always a conscious thing for you?
No, autism has always been a big passion of mine ever since university. I worked with toddlers with autism right through university, then went on to work with older children with autism and behavioural difficulties, and then on to manage a unit for children with autism.
Fantastic. That's huge. I mean, because these are kids, and so one of my very, very good friends has Asperger's, which is obviously on the autism spectrum.
Yes.
And as a kid growing up, he found it really difficult. And obviously he didn't have full-blown autism. So, you know, it wasn't necessarily as easily recognised perhaps as some of the things that come up there. But he found life really challenging when it came to emotions. And especially as teenagers, he'd blurt out the things that other people were thinking but would never say. And that became really difficult for him to manage, because he would get really embarrassed that he couldn't perhaps understand or make the emotional connection that other people would be like, yeah, actually, you can't just call that person fat. That's not really okay. And he'd just be like, but why? You know, and I remember putting on like, I don't know, I think it was about 6 pounds or something. I was about 16 and very, very conscious of it. And he was just like, hey, Jess, you've got really fat recently. What's with that? And I was just like, oh my God, I want to like burn out my own ears. And for him, you know, when I kind of said, actually, I'm really upset about that, he was mortified. He was like, I'm so, so sorry. I don't know why you're upset about it, because you have got a bit fat, but like, I understand that that's, you know, what you're saying. And he found it really challenging. And I always think that these are the kids that people kind of forget about, you know, they forget how difficult it genuinely is for them.
Yeah. And that very much kind of epitomizes the young people that I work with. Most of the youngsters that I work with either have high functioning autism or Asperger's syndrome. Mm-hmm. And I think because on the surface they look so normal in inverted commas, it's really difficult for people to imagine the challenges that they're going through. And I think for many of the parents that I work with, they often feel quite anxious when they're out and about with their children, because if they have a meltdown or something goes wrong, people all too often just assume it's just a child being naughty and therefore react in a very different way than they would to a child with more obvious visual special needs.
And that's really hard, isn't it? Because I mean, obviously I'm not a parent, but I have a dog. And I have a dog who, if he was a child, would definitely be classified as, you know, the spawn of Satan. And I know that when I'm out and about, and this sounds like a really terrible comparison, but I know that when I'm out and about with Max, because he was a rescue, he has certain things that he just really finds difficult. And people, and specifically children, running up to him, he finds really challenging. And he'll bark and he'll get quite aggressive. And so you have to, even though he's a tiny chihuahua, you have to kind of haul him away and say to people, I'm really sorry, he's a rescue. He doesn't like it when you kind of touch him or do anything. And people give you really dirty looks. And I cannot imagine, you know, how parents feel when they go into the supermarket and their kids like having a complete meltdown. And people are giving them these horrible kind of like, oh, for God's sake, why won't your kid shut up kind of stares.
Yeah. Definitely. And places like the supermarket in particular are so challenging because of the really bright lights, lots of people, unpredictable behaviour, and it's kind of a meltdown waiting to happen. And yet it's something that we've all got to do to get through our daily lives. So it's giving parents the skills to be able to make that a little bit less challenging for their children. Mm-hmm. And also the reassurance that they're doing the right thing. Because I think you spend so much of your time, even me as a specialist in the area, when my daughter was diagnosed, I spent a lot of time thinking, am I getting this right? Could I be doing more? What should I be doing next? And even though I had all the theory there, when suddenly you're applying it to your own child, you question yourself in a way that you don't when you're applying it professionally. Yeah. So I think, it's just having someone there to give that advice.
100%. And I think it's also about having people to make you feel like it's normal. I know that one of the things that people come to me a lot with in business is they'll go, oh, I'm suffering from this problem. And they're really embarrassed to kind of share the problem in case it's not normal. And I'm like, honestly, there is nothing that you can say that I probably haven't heard before. And everything is normal. Everything is figure outable. But for parents, it must be really nice to have somebody on their team, if you like, to just be like, do you know what? It's all okay. Like, don't worry about it.
Definitely. Having somebody that just understands the path that you're walking is massive. And I think especially today with kind of all the budget cuts and things like that, it's increasingly difficult to get access to services when families need them. So often by the time they're getting help, things have escalated to quite a high level. Families are very embarrassed about it. Professionals sometimes don't handle it as well as they could because they don't understand what it's like to live it, eat it, breathe it on a daily basis. So just that understanding is so important.
I think you're an absolute hero, you know, and genuinely is one of the most interesting businesses that I've come across in a while, because I think in the online space, we can often get caught up in this. Everyone has to be a coach. Everyone has to be a life coach or a business coach or a health coach or whatever. And people often say to me, but you can't make money in a non-money making industry. And I'm like, you are somebody who in the last week alone, I mean, you've taken massive action. You launched your first ever membership site and you got 21 new members in a week. I mean, 21 new members in a week. Phenomenal, you know, and it's not a money making niche. It is something that's incredibly valuable, you know, to parents and to the children, you know, and the rest of the family alike. But I think that's huge kudos to you. And I'm really, really impressed, and I'm really proud of the work that you're doing. I think it's amazing.
I think I was really lucky in that because I'd been blogging for so long before I tried to sell anything to anybody, I had that kind of know, like, trust factor that you talk about all the time already built up with my audience. I just kind of didn't know what to do with it. And over the past several months, parents have been coming to me saying, can you do more? Is there a way you can support us more? And I didn't really have any idea how to do that or how to harness it until I became a dotty. And then suddenly all the pieces kind of gradually split, kind of fitted into place. And I was like, oh, wow, I could do that and it would really work. But I guess being a teacher and not being in the kind of corporate style environment, I hadn't got a clue how to do any of that kind of stuff, because that's not me. The me part is the bit with the families and the bit with the children and the making a difference. So I definitely needed you and the dotties to show me kind of how to make that a reality in a different setting to a school setting.
And you literally took it on and you thrived in the action. I mean, you're talking like week 2 in the Dotties, you were like, right, I'm going to go out and run a challenge and I'm going to promote it. Week 3, you ran the challenge, you were selling the stuff. Week 4, you had 21 new members. It's, you know, it's a huge thing. And I think it just goes to show, you know, that anyone listening to this podcast, change doesn't have to be a year-long process. You know, you can make the decision and just take the action like Victoria has. So tell me, what are we here to help you take action on today? Because I've no doubt that by the time we talk today, you'll have gone out and actioned it tomorrow. So we'll do an episode in like 2 weeks and be like, so Victoria, what happened?
So as well as the membership site for parents, I also run services to help families who have got private tutors because their children haven't managed in kind of standard education settings, how to develop new strategies to help their children to learn, to engage, and to kind of get involved in a way that will help them to reintegrate back more effectively later into the world that we all have to live in. Now, as part of that, what I want to do is approach some private tutor agencies, and I've written them a letter. Good. Now, what I don't want to do is become a pain in the neck and drive them mad.
You can never be a pain in the neck.
I think my students probably would disagree and say I'm a big one. But yeah, I want to kind of build up that know, like, trust factor that you always talk about with them, but without being a real nuisance. So I guess my question is around how the selling of your services to organisations or agencies is different to selling to individuals, and how do you make sure you ensure you tick their boxes despite them being less emotionally involved in your outcomes?
So that's a really good question. There are a few parts to it. The first part really is that corporations, like any business, are focused primarily on their bottom line, right? And their bottom line comes from happy customers. So they are actually involved in the outcome. And I think that a lot of us kind of go, oh yeah, big corporates. And I used to do this, you know, when I worked for large like recruitment firms and large sales firms, people come to me and go, oh, well, insert name of company, they don't really give a crap if you send my CV here or there. And I'd say, well, no, the guy who owns the company, he probably doesn't. Like, he has probably sat on his yacht somewhere and that's all good for him. But I do, you know, and so what we have to always think about is that corporate companies, you're still selling to people, and people still buy from people, you know, and I think that's sometimes where we go wrong. We forget that actually, you know, our customer then it's not their end customer straight off. It's them, right? It's their HR department, it's their procurement manager. So that's the first thing. And they are invested in the outcome. 1, because the company needs to be profitable. 2, because it needs to deliver results to its clients. And 3, because practically they need to keep their jobs, and, you know, doing their job involves dealing with people like us. The second thing you've got to look at is always approach them with value. I think a lot of the problem that the entrepreneurs have when they're approaching corporate companies is they want to be transparent. We want them to buy from us, and absolutely we need to approach them on that basis. You know, so if you're sending LinkedIn messages, you need to find the stakeholder who wants to engage with you in your business. And you need to send them a message that is really clear about what you are looking to build from that relationship. Yeah. So it's fine to send them a message that says, hi, so-and-so, you know, my name's Victoria. I specialise in helping families with autism who have children with these special educational needs to overcome them and to achieve X, Y, Z. I'd be really interested in having a chat with you and seeing whether insert name of your organisation is interested in potentially partnering up or looking at what we could achieve together that would help your company fill this gap, right? Because when we're having these transparent conversations, we've got to look at what do they want. Now, their company is always going to want more clients, more money, right? That's just the way that they work. So what we have to do is, when you're approaching those companies, is look at what value can you bring to the table that allows them to get more clients and make more money.
Yeah, that's a good
You see what I mean? Yeah. So when we're approaching them, initially, we have this kind of transparent conversation around, this is what I want, this is what I believe it can help you with. And then what happens is we either organize a phone call, or sometimes the person will ghost us. And that's, you know, that is what it is. Inboxes are busy. If they do ghost you, or they don't reply or whatever, the best way to approach it is with more value. Okay, great. Let's turn the conversation a different way. Hey, actually, I believe that a lot of private tutoring companies are missing out on big opportunities when it comes to expanding how they could better deliver a better service to their customers. And I'm going to be writing a report on that. Would you like to contribute, or would you be interested in hearing the report or seeing the report when it comes out? Well, obviously, then that's value. Do you see what I mean? So you're building the relationship.
That is a brilliant idea.
Right? So building the relationship, and you're saying to them, I will give you this in return for you giving me some time, right? And that's how you start to do it. So in terms of like not feeling like you're kind of being a pain in the neck, or that you're always approaching them, when you're approaching them, you always approach them with value. Hey, I noticed that you just got featured in this article. That's really cool. I wanted to congratulate you. Hey, I'm writing this report or this white paper on how you could improve, services. Would you like a copy? Would you like to contribute? Would you like to be featured? Hey, I've noticed that this is changing in our industry. How does that impact your business? Do you see what I mean? So all these little things, they're ways for you to get in touch. And once you've got that initial response of, actually, yeah, Victoria, sure, I'd love to see the report. That'd be cool. You can say, okay, awesome. I'd also love to have a chat with you on the phone and talk about, I know that when we initially connected, I mentioned to you that I'd love to talk about how, you were looking at partnerships this year. Would that be an opportunity after you've had the report?
That is great. Yeah, I love it.
So it's a bit more personal, and it's a bit more transparent than trying to, and I think this is something the entrepreneur world lacks, is that sometimes people will send private messages and be like, hey, you've got a dog, I've got a dog, let's be friends, let's sell each other things. When the reality is that all you need to do is provide a viable business case. What is their reason for using someone like you? Why would you be a great addition, or your services be a great addition to their business?
Yeah. And I think that's because I bring a pair of fresh eyes. When you're in a classroom, even with a group of staff, it can be difficult by the time you've got to the end of the year to come up with new ideas for those students in front of you. When you're sat one-to-one with a student at home, you become so involved with them that it can be difficult sometimes to look from the outside and come up with those other strategies. And again, as an individual private tutor, you come across far fewer children than you do in a classroom setting. So you often don't have that kind of massive breadth of strategies that you've seen over the years incorporated in the different ideas. So not only will it increase outcomes for the child, but it will decrease frustration for the tutor, and therefore mean they're more likely to stay longer at that particular job, which for a child with autism or Asperger's who doesn't like change is really critical to their success.
Hugely. And the other thing you've got to think about from the company perspective is, if the tutor stays in the post, they still get paid. If the tutor leaves, then they have to pay a recruitment fee, and they have to find somebody else to put in there. And then the family, by that time could be like, do you know what, this just isn't working. So it really is for them about retention of their own staff, and about retention of their clients, and about making sure that people go away saying, yeah, we had the best experience when we used company X, and here's why I'd recommend them to all of my friends.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Does that help?
It does. And it makes me really excited about contacting them and getting in touch, because it's something that, as you know, I've been really nervous about, because I don't want them to think, oh God, it's that pain of a woman in my email box. But by the same token, I also know that I'm not exactly the best at answering emails that aren't immediately relevant to what I'm doing that day. So I'm conscious that it is easy to get skipped over, and that you are probably going to need to get in touch several times. But the ways you've suggested that mean I can do that without being seen as a pain or trying to sell to them every time I get in touch makes me feel so much more positive about it. And if it's something that I can go and do.
And that's the thing, the thing with companies and selling to companies is often really simple. The first step is finding the person, the key stakeholder who's going to make the decision. Yeah. And, when you're looking to get hired by a company, that person is generally going to be in HR or procurement. Yeah. They just are. Those are the people that are going to make the decisions about who's coming into the business and doing any kind of training or anything like that. Then you've got to connect with them, and you will find that most of them will be like, yeah, okay, get what you want to connect about. let's talk on the phone, let's find out. So just make sure you know exactly what you want to say. When I was in the corporate world, I used to play bingo. So I used to get my team to play what I called client call bingo. And we'd have like 9 phrases on the card. And you ideally had to get as many of those phrases out on the call as possible before you let the client hang up, right? So some of them would be like value, and some of them would be questions about, you know, how many people do you have in your organization? So commercially interesting questions. And then, you know, every so often it'd be like Christmas or a holiday or something. And so we just throw in something hilarious, you know, like you hear that one of Santa's elves got done for smoking crack or whatever. Probably not an example, but it is one of those things. So, you know, make sure that you've got yourself a little list of, you know, what are the commercially viable questions I really want to know? You know, how many people, how many tutors do they have to have in their business to make this something that I'd be interested in? You know, where are their primary locations? What's their current process for dealing with children? What's their current process for onboarding families? What's their retention rate like? You know, how much their tutors get paid? Those kinds of questions that you can find out a little bit more about. Okay, how happy are their staff? Are they a brand that I want to align myself to? You know, and then what you'll find is that if you have a good conversation with them, they'll come back, they'll say, okay, what can you do for us? And that's the point where you go, okay, well, these are the options. And they'll usually ask you to send a proposal. So you just need to have, you know, a standard proposal template that outlines their company name, your company name, the main objective, like what's to be achieved by you working with them, and then your options and prices for doing so. And that's it. I mean, literally working with companies is so much easier than working with, you know, smaller businesses or solopreneurs, because all they're looking for is for you to provide a viable business case of how you would increase their bottom line, how you would increase their client base, and how you'd increase their, you know, customer experience.
I love the way you think about things, you see. You always make them seem so much less terrifying than they are in my head before I start thinking about. I'm like,
really
I can't do this. I don't know how to do it. And then I tell someone, they're like, yeah, of course you can. You just do this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I can.
I think it's one of those things you do get used to it. And honestly, selling to corporates is a lot easier. You know, cold calling is a lot more challenging. And I might do that on an episode on that one day, because it's actually really interesting. It works really well. But actually, the process of getting clients in corporate businesses is just a case of following up regularly. You know, every 30 days at least, you want to be talking to all of these leads and just being like, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. This is an article I just wrote. This is what your company just did. Da, 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 da. That's actually really simple, you know. And so when you get on the phone with these people, you've already given them value. They already know what you're trying to do. They already understand a bit about you and your background and what's going on. It's a very easy sell.
Yeah, and I can totally see that now, having spoken to you, and all the kind of the different steps. They make logical sense, as always. And I think that's why the dotties make so much sense in my head. I'm a logical person and I like logical steps. That's why I do the job I do, because my children like logic, you know. And the dotties is so like that. Everything you say makes sense and follows on from the point before. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that.
We do try. But is there anything else? Is there anything you're like, okay, actually, what can I do about this? Or are you feeling good?
I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really excited about kind of getting out there and doing it and making it happen.
Perfect. I'm really excited for you. And honestly, you know that I'll be like, Victoria, how are you getting on? So you'll never get away from that. But let people know, you know, if there are people in my audience, which there are, who have children who are, you know, unique and have autism, you know, where can they connect with you? Where can they find you? How can they learn, you know, some of the amazing things that you really are teaching, you know, on how to help families with autism?
So I'm over at Autism Consultancy International, and you can find us on Facebook at Autism Support for Parents and Teachers UK. Amazing. And there will very soon be a podcast which is going to be talking autism, parenting your unique child. That's next mission to do.
I'm very excited about this. Very excited about the podcast.
I'm equally excited and terrified in equal measures. Once I've done the first one, I'll be all right.
It's going to be amazing. It really will. And I think, you know, for anyone who has been listening today and who's thinking about getting in touch with Victoria, please do. Honestly, I have never met anyone with quite so much energy or passion for parenting unique children, you know, and I really do think it's an absolutely amazing thing that you're doing. And I think that you are doing amazing, amazing things for parents. So if you haven't yet gone and clicked on the show notes, if you click on those, you will see links to Victoria's website, Autism Consultancy International. Join her over on Facebook and make sure that you check out the brand new podcast, which is so exciting. If you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you drop us a little review on iTunes. That helps us and gives us feedback, and also helps you, because if we push it up iTunes promotes it more, we get more people listening, and that means that, you know, I keep showing up year after year, which is always a good start, right? So have an epic day. I will be back with another deep dive training on Monday, and I'll see you in that episode.